Check it out. Look at this beautiful little girl. Absolutely beautiful. I ask in my tweet, I say staged ? It's up for you to decide whether or not it is staged. This is what's being done to white children, though. I'm not saying that the white girl was specifically taught this, but the narrative, you remember in my book, Crucible, a nonfiction story about how I dedicated my life between 11 and 13 years of age, 7th and 8th grade in the United States here, to white well-being, to freeing Western kind of anti-whiteism so that our powerful spirit could come out of us into the world. That I knew if I could help to unlock that, we would recapture our destiny. These anti-whiteism is taught to inflict it on us from cradle to grave. And every generation is worse. Every generation is more victimized. Every generation is suffering from more white noir. And when given these anti-whiteisms, i.e. meme pathogens, when given these things, they situate themselves in our subconscious mind in a way that comes together holistically as the anti-white narrative. And connections are made that are intended, but not necessarily spoken. Does that make sense? I say, is this staged? This is what they're doing to white children. I wrote about it in Crucible, Child, Patriot, American Victory. If you want to do more than complain about it, check us out. Let's listen to what this little girl has to say here. Now, she has a sister or mother or aunt videotaping this little girl. Look at her in her beautiful little pink jacket from school, asking her what she did in school today. Again, it doesn't appear to be staged. Is it staged? I don't know. This is what is happening to white children, though.
Learn about in school.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr. What'd he do?
He died for our sins.
No, that was learn about.
I don't know how the sound was. If that blew your ears out, I apologize. It was loud here. What was the sound like? First of all, lavish, absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. Protect white children. She is an adorable little girl. This little girl put together as a consequence of her intelligence. You see, the average moron will look at this little girl and think, oh, she's dumb. She's made a grievous error. No, she's bright. And she came to the outcome the anti-whites wanted her to come to. Do you remember in Crucible, if you read it? If you haven't read it, shame on you. Learn to read. In Crucible, I came to the conclusion, nonfiction, while I was there at school, that they had replaced Jesus Christ and Lucifer with Martin Luther King and Hitler. And I didn't know anything about Hitler other than what they told me. And I didn't know how much of that was true when I saw that what they told me was a service to victimizing us. Maybe it's all true. Maybe they're not saying the half of it. I didn't know, and also did not care. What I cared about was our victimization. Good and evil had their names and faces changed for the white population. This little girl is extremely bright. She is learning in hushed tones about MLK. Now, whatever MLK was, even whatever he actually meant and represented and wanted to be, I don't care. Rearview mirror. What he is today, what he is for every new generation of white children, is, for a time and to a degree, the face of anti-whiteism. The in-your-face representation of the evil of the white race. And so this little girl, learning Christianity and about Jesus Christ dying for our sins, very intelligently confused what was meant to be confused, the stories. This is not like, oh, it's just she got a little hiccup in her thinking or something. She confused like Wednesday's Bible study with what they were just talking about. No, the same gravity, if not more gravity, is used when talking about MLK in association with the evil of the white race. And all he wants is the suffering of non-white people to stop. Why won't white people stop hurting all the non-white people of the world? That's what it's given to us as. That's what we're browbeaten with as babies. That's what we're browbeaten with. That why won't you stop? Why won't you get in the way? If you're white, why won't you get in the way of other white people victimizing us? Here was this courageous preacher. The tones, the hushed tones, are more hushed. The tones are more tonal when they talk about MLK than when they talk about Jesus Christ at church. They won't even let you mention Jesus Christ at school anymore. And depending upon the religious school, it depends upon their particular view of Jesus and how you'll be able to talk about Jesus Christ. But when they bring up Martin Luther King, it's the same. It's the same obeisance. It's the same condemnation. It's the same original sin as a little white baby, this little beautiful girl, poisoned as a baby. What happens if your study go free? What happens with those earliest infections? They become inseparable from our identity. Do you hear me? Do I have to say it again? The earliest anti-white poisons that we are infected with, this little beautiful angel she's infected with, the earliest infection becomes inseparable from our identity. You can't even know yourself without these memories. Good God. How does that not make you volcanic with rage? She can't know a day, can't live a moment of her life with an identity that isn't infected, that isn't of itself anti-whiteisms, anti-white concepts that she can never escape. What's going to happen in her life now? How is she going to live her life? With what deep white guilt will she feel every waking moment? Subconsciously and often consciously. How many decisions is she going to make with dating, with friends that she supports, friends that she condemns, colleagues and co-workers she supports and condemns, the hiring of this and the firing of that, the promoting of this and the demotion of that? How many aspects of her life is this going to affect? And therefore, how many other white lives is she going to affect negatively? And those white lives affecting hers negatively. Anti-whites deserve to be burned at the stake for this. Metaphorically, burned at the stake. You want to can talk to me about black kids not having enough cell phones and not having the clothes as nice as the richest white people and healthcare as good as the richest white people and midnight basketball and not enough team sports for them and not enough bending over backwards for you. Want to talk about that? Not enough of the nicest iPads for school. That's why they're not doing good. How about the Hispanics? Same shit. And they're doing this to white babies. Listen to that again.
Out in school.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr. What'd he do?
He died for our sins.
No, that.
This is the conclusion that white children come to always and everywhere when they are reared in anti-whiteism, when they are reared within the anti-white narrative, always and everywhere. This is the victimization we have to stop. This right here is worse than gang rape, pedophilia, ritualistic torture and murder, all in one. Because this will affect the entire arc of her life and all the lives of those around her. Never knowing a day without the white guilt. He died for our sins. This is what white people actually think. This is what white children, if those studies that I wanted to do were allowed to take place, they could get the funding instead of all the stupidity getting the funding. We'd have had the data of this. This is what white children, you know how I know? Because I remember vividly my childhood and vividly speaking to my friends, my peers, and extracting for them the conclusions that I knew that they were drawing, because those were the intended conclusions to draw. Those were the only conclusions that could be drawn. And those were the same conclusions that I came to and rejected. And that's why I innocently asked what they were doing, the anti-whites, my teachers, the guidance counselors, the principals. This is madness. This is not something to laugh at. This is not something to say, oh, poor little, I put this out there and there are conservatives out there and they treat this as like some little silly nothing. No black parent would treat this as a silly nothing. No Jew parent would treat this as a silly nothing. If it were the condemnation and demonization of their people coming out of the mouths of their children as a new religion to destroy themselves. Only white people are this inept. And that's why we have to bring them by way of these concepts to a healthier place, a healthier world. This has got to stop. This is the kind of thing, if you want to talk, and this is the kind of thing that you also notice doesn't get any attention. I paid for this thing to be pushed on Twitter. Only 36,000. Why doesn't this get attention? Why? Because fucking selfish, individualistic white people are looking for the bee's nest to complain about. They're looking for the blacks to say, oh, look at them, fill in the blank. They're looking for the Jews to say, oh, look at them, fill in the blank, because they're selfish pieces of shit. They want to rage. They want to have anger. They want it to be a hatred of these other groups of people. Well, I tell you what, my friend, your hatred is nothing but being a pussy. Because you want to see real rage. You want to see people go to the mat. It's always motivated by love. And it is my love for my people that when I see something like this, I am volcanic. I don't need to condemn an entire group of people. I don't even want to. I don't even want to think about them. I want to think about our victimization. That's what I want to put it into. So you got to be able to see yourself here. You got to be able to get this right. Something like this should make you far angrier than seeing a white person jumped by a bunch of blacks, or seeing a Jewish person like Aikman say he's going to get all of these presidents fired because they were nasty to Jews. So look at across the white sympathetic sphere. They're frothing with that kind of shit. We're the only people that get this right. Not a word about this. This should have 10 million views. If white people gave a shit, think about the white population, implicit, explicit, white sympathetics. 50 million views it should have on Twitter. 50 million. But white people don't give a shit about ours. And that's what's got to change.